Welcome everyone to Sharing Soulful Stories. Today I am here with Diana Nguyen. Welcome, Diana.
Thanks, Jo. Hi, everyone.
And let me just introduce Diana to everyone so you know a bit more, they know a bit more about what it is that you do and what you get up to. Diana is the founder of Trinity Health Living, and she is a massage and biodynamic craniosacral therapist, an energy healer, and a shaman. Prior to becoming who she is now, Diana was a lawyer who worked her way up to head the legal function in Australia and New Zealand of a global IT company. After 8 years of working in the law, Diana realized that she didn't feel fulfilled and entered a period of soul searching to eventually find out that all she wanted to do was to help people from a health perspective. When she realized this and made the decision to follow her heart, she threw out her law books and university notes, and the next day woke up feeling strong pulsations of energy out of her hands to the point that she could not physically move her arms. That began her journey into spirituality and energy healing and has led her to where she is now. A shaman who seeks to assist individuals to recognize their own potential and ability to create the lives that they want to have. Oh, I love all of that. That's so amazing, Diana. I'm really excited to have you here. And having even shared a little bit of your story in that bio, I'm opening all these spirituality conversations with the question, what does spirituality mean to you?
Well, thanks, Jo. Thanks for asking that. I know when I was asked to think about this question, my first reaction was just like, oh my God, what does it actually mean? Because it's something that can be quite difficult to answer, and you actually need to take a bit of time to sit down and to figure out what it means. And then I ended up coming with the whole fact that spirituality to me is a way of living your life that is meaningful and purposeful. So you're not just kind of walking through life doing the usual, 9 to 5 work, get up in the morning, blah, all that sort of stuff. You actually feel like you're here to do something special for yourself and for everyone in the world. And to me, spirituality is based on, your own belief, thoughts and patterns and all that kind of stuff. And it can change all the time. So for me, yeah, it's just a way of living that changes based on what your needs are at that particular point in time.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And I know we touched on before we opened this call that I actually haven't sat down myself and thought, how would I answer that question if somebody asked me, and how much it might have changed having had all these conversations, because there is so much goodness in all these different descriptions. And as you say, it means different things to different people and can change even throughout your life and even day to day. Like, what does it feel like for me today? So thank you so much for adding that it's sort of, it's actually a way of living your life. I love that. And this next question we've touched on a little bit in your bio, but I'd love a little bit more about whether or not spirituality has always been part of your life, or that trigger event that we mentioned, whether, if you could just share a bit more about that unfolding. Thank you.
Yep, sure. So I guess spirituality in a way has been part of my life since I was a kid, but mainly from the aspect of being grown up in a really strict Catholic family. And so, you're thrust into the whole belief system around Catholicism and all that kind of stuff. And as a child, I never really questioned it. And I always believed that there was like something out there. And so for, I think up until my teenage years, I was just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, there's a God, there's a man, and, I have to confess my sins and all that kind of stuff and blah, blah, blah. But then it got to a point when I was, probably about 15 or 16 years old when I started to question it, because a lot of the doctrines coming out of the church, I ended up just really not agreeing with. Things like euthanasia and abortion and their stance on homosexuality and all that kind of stuff. And I started to really, question what what it was about. But then, and, to the point I actually bought some books to read and all that kind of stuff. But then life got in the way, busy living up to my parents' expectations, being the golden girl, studying law, because that's what Asian parents want you to do, whether it's a doctor of law or a dentist, because they earn the most money, sort of thing. And yeah, so uni and all that kind of stuff got in the way, and then starting my legal career got in the way, so I kind of just put it to the side. But it wasn't until that trigger event where I realized that I wasn't actually really happy having reached the goal that I wanted in law, which was to be the head of the legal function in an IT company. There was just something there that was missing, and I didn't know what it was, and I couldn't understand why, because I'd been brought up to believe you have a really successful career, you earn lots of money, and therefore, that's where your happiness comes from. And I really started to question that. So then that kind of made me, as you said before, kind of look into what it is that I wanted. And then I realized from that perspective that the human body is just absolutely amazing. And there was this other aspect to it that you can't see, and yet it's undeniable that it exists, sort of thing. And then I wanted to dive into that further. And then obviously when the whole energy thing started happening in my hands, that really started to get me questioning, what the hell is going on over here and all that kind of stuff. And as the universe would have it, they'd put certain people in my path where I'd be able to ask and get their feedback on it. And that's where I learned, I understood a little bit more about the spirit realm, and then started tapping into my own automatic writing with the spirits, and they'll be like, telling me what's going on and all that kind of stuff, and learning about the angels and all that sort of thing. And then, it led me onto the path of being a shaman, because I went onto a retreat because the word shaman had always been quite interesting to me. And then from that, everything just opened up. So yeah, that's kind of my spiritual journey.
Wow. Oh, I love that, because I feel there's a lot of people that will resonate with so much of that story, whether of Asian parents or not, but that whole living up to your parents' expectations or what you think they want you to do. It's interesting whether they would still say they want me to be happy, but I thought that this meant that equated to having a successful and financially viable career. Yeah, so love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I would actually still like you to share a bit more about your story if you're willing, and any highs and lows that stand out for you in particular.
Yep. So the highs are me being able to just find what it is that I'm meant to be doing this lifetime. So, it's so indescribable, the feeling that I get in my heart when I actually found out what it was. It's like everything just kind of opened up, and I just felt, oh my God, yes, this is it, sort of thing. And being in the law, my left logical side of the brain was just always going, oh no, what are you doing? You're not going to earn enough money and blah, 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 blah. So all of the analytical arguments from a logical perspective, which made complete sense, started firing off in my brain. But then it was undeniable, the feeling that I had. And the feeling was I had to do it regardless. And I knew I would probably face some hard times, but deep down, there was this inner knowing that I knew I was going to be absolutely okay. And so that's why I went forward with it. And then, just meeting people and being able to really see a difference that you've made in their lives, that's the ultimate high when it comes to the spiritual journey for me, sort of thing. And then from the low point is, back to the parents, kind of, I guess, having a spiritual coming out to them. So, I made the decision a couple of years ago to stop going to the church, because before then I went to church every single Sunday. So I was like one of those, Catholics that will go to church all the time. And then when I told my parents about it finally, because I had been not going to church for a year, and then I finally told them, oh my God, it was painful, because my parents would come out. My dad in particular, he wanted to disown me. My parents thought I was dealing with the devil. And no matter how I tried to explain things, it was actually really difficult to get them to see my point of view, to the point that I actually I stood up for myself and I said, I don't deserve to be spoken to in the way that you're speaking to me. And if you're going to do that, then I'm just going to walk out this door and I'm never going to come back, sort of thing. And then, you know, my mum was up in, you know, she was going crazy and my dad was going mental. And yeah, they ended up getting, funnily enough, a Catholic priest to come over to chat to me. But he actually understood where I was coming from. And so he told me, you know, where your father's coming from, he's had his own experience. And so his beliefs and thoughts and all that kind of stuff are very different to where you're coming from, because you've been exposed to a lot more different sort of things. So he said, I understand your decision for leaving the church, and if you ever come back, then I'll welcome you, but just understand it from your father's point of view as well. And, you know, things are getting better with my parents in terms of them accepting, you know, what I do and where I'm at. But I mean, there's still tension there. And so that's kind of the low point. The other low point is just realizing things that, you know, used to work for me and the friendships that I used to have, and then having to let it go because it doesn't work for me anymore. You know, you end up, as you grow and evolve, you end up kind of losing friendships and finding new friends in the process and all that kind of stuff. And it's just something that you have to accept and acknowledge and then go through it in your own time. So whilst it's a low of losing certain people in your life, there's also the high when new people come in, and just like you and me, we can talk about this sort of stuff and it feels so comfortable. You don't feel like you're hiding yourself from anyone, sort of thing.
Thank you so much for sharing about how painful and difficult it was, as you say, to come out about your opinions on spirituality and how they'd shifted away from the I don't want to make it wrong, the doctrine that you were being taught through the church, say, which I know supports a lot of people and they're very happy with. And I love the fact that the priest could hear and feel your point of view. And for me, someone that is teaching spirituality, that's one of the most beautiful teachings, is to allow everyone to have their own experience and validate that, and what is true and real for them is true and real for them. Like and it may be different to you. And so that's beautiful as well. But I love that you shared that, because it sort of acknowledges that some of the fears that we have about sharing this with people, they're real, and they're real for a reason. And this really can take us down a path where we begin to, as you say, let go of certain friends because we just don't feel as comfortable or, you know, with their presence. But one thing that, as you mentioned, we can have these amazing conversations now, and we met in the most synchronistic way, and
Yes.
it just feels like the universe is just saying, here you go, I'll just connect you with people, you know, at a talk of a beautiful spiritual teacher who we were lined up to get books signed in the queue next to each other. And when we finally say hello, you know, we're both craniosacral therapists. I mean, what is the chances of that? It was so just divinely aligned that I was standing next to you in that line at Kaira. And interestingly, one of the other speakers had actually had some private mentoring with her. I didn't know that she did that.
Oh, wow, amazing.
Maybe she doesn't do it anymore. But yeah, if you listen to Raquel Webb's talk, she talks about what Kaira guided her into. Anyway, off topic, back to you. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I would love to know now, though, as a shaman, as an energy healer, and most likely having loads of tools in your toolkit, how would you say you weave spirituality into your life?
Yep, that's a good question. It chops and changes all the time. So what I try to do is have a daily yoga practice, at least in the morning. You know, you get out of bed and I jump out onto my mat to just kind of help stretch the body out and help myself get into focus. But then other than that, you know, there'll be some people that say, oh, you need to meditate every single day and, you know, you need to do this and that. I meditate when I feel like I have to meditate, and it doesn't have to be at a certain point, like a certain time during the day. And it doesn't have to be every single day. So actually, over the last week or so, I've actually sat down and meditated every single day. but I hadn't done that for 6 months or 8 months prior to that sort of thing. So, you know, I either sit down and I meditate, or I've actually got this movement meditation where I just kind of let my body do whatever it wants to do. And that's like, you know, kind of utilizing much more of the goddess energies, which I know that I need to, you know, tap into a lot more. And then other than that, you know, if I have time, and I'm very fortunate that the clinic that I work at in the city is directly opposite the botanical gardens, then I'll just go for a walk over there and sit down by the trees and all that kind of stuff. And then the other way that I try to weave spirituality into my life is just trying to be the observer of my life. So I pay attention now when there are certain people or certain circumstances that trigger me. So they really begin to piss me off. But instead of kind of just allowing it to grow and really piss me off, blah, 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 I have to go within and just go, well, why is that? Why am I actually triggered by this particular person? And more often than not, the issue's with me, it's not with them. So it's kind of like, you know, this big learning sort of thing. But in a way, it's really good to have that self-reflection. And then other ways also, like, you know, I go and I see my own energy healers and other healers to help me work on my own issues. And then I'm very lucky that my partner is quite spiritual as well. So we're able to have some really nice conversations. Yeah. Oh, and the other thing which I forgot was I try to stay clear of mainstream media and all that kind of stuff, because I just think that it's really fear-based and doesn't necessarily reflect what is actually going on in the world. And whilst on the news you'll hear all of this bad stuff going on, there's equally, if not more, good stuff going on in the world that we need to focus on. So I try to stay away from all that kind of stuff, and, you know, I'll read certain spiritual websites, or, you know, go onto Gaia and look at some of the streaming stuff on there. But yeah, that's kind of how I weave it into my life. But it's pretty much a daily sort of thing. It's not, you know, all of a sudden I decide I'm so spiritual and then go out. It's just, no, I'll weave it into my way of being and ground it into this reality, because I don't want to go around going, oh my God, love and light, wearing white clothes and all that kind of stuff. No, I have to lead by example. And so, you know, by leading by example, that's how I embody my own beliefs and hope that, you know, it has a positive effect on others as well.
I love that. I really love that, because I feel that's something a lot of us are feeling called to do now, is sort of this, okay, I've got this spiritual connection now. How can I bring it into everything that I do? And you know, ground it into this reality. That was a great way of expressing it. I really like that. And I love the concept of being an observer of your life as well. That's fantastic. Thoughts for people to ponder and play with and wonder about. My last question for you is, what advice would you give to somebody who's just ready, just at the beginning and getting curious and ready to explore their spirituality?
That's a great question. The first thing is, I'd say, dive into it without feeling like what you're doing is wrong or anything like that. Just use that curiosity that you have and follow it wherever it goes. But in doing so, I'd also say, don't put someone up on a pedestal just because they seem to have more information than you on a particular topic. And just remember that you're in control of your own thoughts and beliefs, and it's up to you to choose whether you're going to take on board what someone says or not. And, you know, if you want to do that, then this is kind of going into my other tip, which is trust your gut and trust the feeling. So if someone says something to you, even though they're the purported expert in whatever, and it doesn't actually seem right from your perspective, then cast it aside. Don't take it in. And it's absolutely fine, because that's where you're at this point in time. If there's anyone who kind of tells you that you must believe in this and that, blah, blah, run a mile away from them, because that doesn't kind of, you know, honor, as Kyra would say, your sovereignty. So I would say, yeah, follow your gut. Don't put anyone else on a pedestal. And following the whole pedestal thing is, don't compare yourself to other people as well. mean, we're all unique for a reason, and something that works for someone will not necessarily work for you. And it's really difficult. And I have this issue myself when it comes to, like, you know, looking at, oh my God, the skills that someone else has compared to what I have and all that sort of thing. But remember, if we were all supposed to be the same, then the world wouldn't be better off, right? Like, we're all here for a particular reason. That's why we are here. So embrace your uniqueness and don't worry about how other people would perceive you. As long as you're comfortable with yourself, then everything else is just, it doesn't really matter, sort of thing. And then I think the last tip, as what we were talking about before, Joe, offline, was have fun. I mean, sometimes you go down this spiritual path and you start getting really serious because you're like, oh my God, I need to really work on myself to achieve enlightenment and ascension and blah, 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 blah. But the fact of the matter is, things happen a lot easier when you have fun. So, yeah. Like, you know, really going in and doing that serious, oh my God, I need to be in a cave and sit silently. Just have fun. Do whatever it is that you like, and you might find that things actually flow a lot better than you trying to force it.
Oh, I love all of those tips so much, especially the fun one. I love that fun's come into this conversation. But no, in particular, the one about the trusting your own unfolding, your own curiosity, your own what resonates, what feels right, what feels good for you at a deep level. I so strongly believe there are as many paths as there are people. No two people's paths will be even remotely the same, even if they do happen to grow up with the same background and the same teachings and the same teachers. The paths are still different, and what works for you is not going to be exactly the same as others. Even if you're sitting in the same meditation retreat doing the exact same practices, your experiences might be different. So I love that. Thank you so much. And as we wrap up, can you please share with everyone a little more about what you do and how they can go about finding you?
All right. So I provide remedial massage services and biodynamic craniosacral therapy services, but my main passion lies in the shamanism and the energy healing work. So I don't know if many people know what shamanism is. Lots of people might think it's like, you know, indigenous sort of thing. You walk around wearing brown clothes, really earthy colours, playing a drum, talking to the animals and all that kind of stuff. And part of it is that. I mean, you know, the drum as part of sound healing is fantastic. And as a shaman, you do connect with the animals and nature as well. But the main thing about a shaman is the shaman works between worlds. And so we access our spirit team and guides and the client spirit team and guides, ascended masters, whoever, and we channel information from them through in the healing. And some of the stuff is not necessarily a physical thing, even though you might be feeling it in your shoulder. I've had plenty where shoulder issues have actually been related to some sort of past life, and we've cleared the shoulder issue and physically has gone away. So that's kind of the stuff that I do. I also offer intuitive massage, which is a combination of energy healing and the massage at the same time. So again, with that shoulder example, if I was massaging the shoulder and I felt into it, then the past life would come up. So I'd clear it at the same time as I was actually working on your shoulder. So I'm located in the CBD, Sydney CBD, across from Botanical Gardens, or at home here in Surrey Hills. You can find me at Trinity Health and Living. So .com.au/Facebook/Instagram, all that sort of stuff. So that's where you can find me.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here. It's been wonderful to hear more from you, and to hear your what shamanism is to you was really interesting there at the end as well. So thank you so much for that. And I'm just going to say to everyone, if you enjoyed what you heard today, I would love it if you comment below the video. Let us know what you think. Did you have any big takeaways from Diana's conversation, or any questions that I might be able to help you with? So thank you everyone for listening, and we will talk to you soon. Bye now.